July 1st monthly school board meeting. Could we get attendance, please?
Absolutely. Ms. Higgins.
Here.
Mr. Richards.
Here.
Ms. Hastings.
Here.
Mr.
Here.
Cotton.
Here.
Ms. Bouchard.
Here.
I am here, Ms. Campbell, and Ms. Robinson.
Here.
Thank you.
Great. And approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, passes. And how about the consent agenda? Could I get a motion for approval on that? Do we have any changes to it? Seeing none.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Campbell,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Cotton. All those in favor?
Aye.
And we'll now turn to recognitions and reports. Superintendent Murphy.
Thank you. Let me just take a peek at my, I just thought I'd bring you up to date. Oops, I don't need this. I thought I'd bring you up to date on some of the end of the year things that occurred there. And by the way, these are interests that you've always had. And the first one I wanted to talk a little bit about was transitions. And that was one of your goals in making sure that we have really effective transitions between students leaving certain age groups and moving on. So as you know, kindergarten, we have a program running this summer for some kindergarten youngsters at all of our elementary schools, with the exception, of course, of Broken Ground. And so students will be coming in. Those students were encouraged to attend the summer program, get their boots on the ground, understand all the patterns and routines that happen at the school. So really a fun time, lots of activities for our youngsters. And many of them have been there already doing screenings and so forth with the staff. So we're watching the enrollment carefully. It looks pretty good everywhere, except we're seeing the enrollment curtail off a little bit at Christa, so we'll keep an eye on that. It's still early. It's only today of July 1st, so we know we have some ways to go in terms of that, but right now we're watching that kindergarten numbers over at Christa. Grades 5 to 6, grades 5 visited up at the middle school. They just spent the afternoon and a couple of hours with each group and having them tour the buildings, meet the teachers. They also had a parent night where I know that Mr. Richard and some of the staff were there to update parents on what the middle school is like. I heard really good rave reviews about it. I think a couple of you might have even been there for that evening, and we got really good feedback. So I think the kids had a good transition. I happened to be over at Runlet today. I spent some time walking around, and I noticed a number of 6th graders in the building doing math and reading and other activities. So that's a good thing. They'll be really ready for school when September rolls around, or actually August 28th rolls around. Again, I think there was good transitions. Of course, all of our staff were working with the staff in the building and with 5th grade, and so the 6th grade and the counselors and so forth were all talking with the teachers so that they had an understanding of youngsters as they move forward. Of course, the big one was the 8th grade, and they had a wonderful recognition night this year. The students, I actually had how many? There were 262 8th graders moving on to 9th grade, which is exciting. The kids were awesome. They were perfect, and they went through the line. They had to shake hands, and they made eye contact. They shook hands. They were all dressed, really nicely, and lots of parents were there. It was just a really joyous evening for our 8th graders, and a send-off. A number of them received awards for various accomplishments while they were there, and so it was really a great night. And they also went to the high school. They all went over to the high school, spent time over at the high school. touring, meeting with teachers and administrators, and again, that was successful. And of course, you know that the high school runs a summer program for all ninth graders. So they go there for a week and they have all kinds of activities and just different games and fun and meeting each other, lots of group work. And so it's been really very popular, well attended. Staff love it, and I think it really helps our ninth graders to feel a little more secure when they go to high school. They're going into a building with 1,400, plus, you know, you think about how active the Career and Technical Center is with, 700 kids over there doing that kind of work, so it can be intimidating. So having that program in the summer is really a very positive thing for our students. Not only do our kids from Concord, but that also includes our youngsters from Deerfield who participate in that. So that kind of wraps up the transitions, and we're always looking for feedback. I know that Jay and Jay Richard and Tim spent some time together kind of going over everything and reviewing it and reflecting on the effectiveness of it. So they'll make subtle changes as they see are necessary. But anyway, I thought a great transition for our students, and which I think is really important. Filled positions is my second topic. I feel we're doing pretty well. We've had a couple of resignations, and that happens. This is the world of work, let's not forget. And people have opportunities, but we are really staffed very well for opening. Classroom teachers, we're staffed totally. We have a couple of special ed positions still to fill, a school psychologist. But I talked to the principals, and they all have candidates that they'll be interviewing over the next week or so. So we should be able to finish that up. I have some nominations tonight for you, but I think we're in great places for positions to open school. And I really appreciate the work that our administrators did. They really got on it early, which is great. Always want a little advantage. So get out there early, and they did some great recruiting, and I think we're very fortunate to have some very talented people join us for next year. So I think Career and Technical School is also, we had one position that she was working on to fill in the automotive department, so not sure where she is with that position, but I think she'll find somebody for that position. There already is one teacher in that program, and it's always a second, just because of the number of students that choose to participate in that program. So I think we're pretty good with positions, and as we get ready for August 28th. I also wanted to share with you, I think one of you asked me about graduates and how many. I think I told you Runlet was 262. We had 303 students at the high school graduate. And that includes all of our students who are part of the night school program, Adult Diploma Academy. And that's been very successful. I have to say that the high school has made a concerted effort to recruit and to encourage some older adults to come back to school and to finish and to get the credits and get their diploma, and so that's been great. Great event on Saturday. I think you all enjoyed it. Those that you were able to be there. It's always a wonderful morning with our students and the faculty. So, and again, the weather was very cooperative. I think Barb will tell us how many rainy days have we had in the last 22 rainy days in the last 20.
40.
Oh, wow.
I was in high, since my graduation, there's graduation's been inside 3 times total, so that's.
So
I only graduated, a couple of years ago.
so somebody's on our favor when it comes to that day, because it was just absolutely glorious, right? The weather couldn't have been any better. A little windy, but
It was a great day.
it was a great day. And then I was curious to know how many students at Career and Technical Center receive certificates. They have a special program for that. Ms. Brown came in on her motorcycle, I guess.
Summer in New Hampshire.
Yeah. I was curious how many students received, we were there, Kim and I were there for the event. It's a great night. All the programs, the students, second-year students receive certificates. I think, Jim, it's always been one of your favorite nights also. And we had 277 students receive certificates. And remember, that's from not only from our high school, Concord High School students, but and Deerfield students, but it also includes all the students who arrive from our sending schools, all 9 districts. So again, a nice, excellent program, and a nice way for them to end their year. So let's see, what else have I got on my agenda? I wanted to update you on a couple of other things. Notice of grant award, I think I hinted at that the last time we met. We received notice from Senator Shaheen's office, and then we received from Department of Health and Human Services a grant that we had written back last fall. And we didn't hear from it, and quite frankly, I have to tell you, we were very disappointed that we didn't get it. We really thought this was the grant we wanted, but then you know what happened. We got the second grant, which was around $4 million for working with our partners in the community, which is ongoing now. Well, we got notice this week that we did get the first grant, and the grant was for $6,465,284, and this is all around substance abuse and mental health.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we're really pretty pleased about that. So we'll work, that's a direct grant from the federal government, Health and Human Services in Washington. So we have some meetings coming up, as you know, are perfect, that we have our Director for Student Wellness, and she will provide that oversight. But I have to give kudos to Janine Richards, who was our former district wellness. She was authored this with Ellen Desmond, our grant writer, and the two of them, along with a lot of input from members of our staff, put together this incredible application to essentially be awarded this grant. And again, we'll be working with community partners and folks to address some of the concerns we have around mental health. And I know, again, as I recall over the last couple of years, especially after the pandemic, you were all very concerned about those issues. And so I couldn't be more proud of the folks that worked hard to get this grant and bring that kind of money to the district to do. So we're excited about that.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's great. By the way, it begins on 9/30 this year, 9/30/24, and through 9/29/2028. So just so you know, the time span. First year is really around development of a strategic plan. It's all the planning by March. I think it's March 15th. We have to have a plan ready to submit about how we're going to use that over the course of the 4 years. So again, we're looking forward to it. One more piece, because this is often comes up, and it's about our summer food program. And you know, the local CAT that usually provides the food for the youngsters, all the youngsters that are in summer school or folks that need it, they're not doing that this year. So our department, our food service department, under the leadership of Donna Reynolds, stepped up, wrote grants, and so we are providing food, breakfast, lunches for our students, all youngsters that are in summer school and in our buildings and in different programs, as well as families that can access the food. So we are continuing to do that, and again, I have to give shout-out kudos to Donna and her team for ensuring that we could continue with that program.
Can I say one thing to
Sure.
that? That I just want to say that the CAP, the area access, who typically provides that, was lacking volunteers to service that. So just to the community, with the lack of volunteers of that program, the school district is stepping up to service the community. Just another point.
Well, I was over at Runlet and I saw, the van that we have, right? The van that we bought so that we could do these things, right? Especially with Title I. Actually, it was through Title I. They were out delivering food, so I don't who was delivering. I couldn't see the person, but opened up the back of the van and out came the food and lunches and all that for the kids. So I appreciate the staff stepping up. I know that Kim has been involved with overseeing summer program while John's out, and so that was part of our summer program. Did I forget anything?
That's pretty thorough.
I'm good. If you have any questions, I think.
Are there any questions?
No.
All right. We will move on to a middle school project update. I think that's still you.
That's still me, so, so it's really on you right now. We have completed 2 Q&As. And so what the next steps for you will be, a work session. Your chair, President Walsh, has scheduled a work session for next Monday. And I think it's an opportunity for you as a team to review all of the information, talk about it, help you to determine the particulars of the project. So you got a lot of input on the gymnasium size, the fields, how many fields, the size of the auditorium, whether we were going to do a greenhouse. So there was a lot of pieces that you got input on, and I think it will be your chance to come together as a team, discuss the merits of whatever as you work towards setting a price. So the next step will be the following Monday, which is the 15th. And again, my understanding is President Walsh has set a time for a hearing to hear the proposals and to hear from the public about what any thoughts on it, because this is the meeting where you are scheduled to put a cap on the costs associated with the project, and that's a really important step. Now, we also have the 17th, which is Wednesday of that week, scheduled for you, and I'll go over the calendar when I do that at the end of the meeting, but that meeting will also give you additional time if you need it, because everybody wasn't sure about how much time they needed.
Should we find members available on the 8th? Is there anyone that's not?
I am not available on the 8th.
Not available on the 8th, not available, and I'm not available on the 8th. So you have, next Monday.
And I will be out. I'll be out that entire week, Brenda. So I won't be at. Are you head of negotiation? Who's head of negotiations? Pam. I don't know. I won't be at negotiations.
Okay.
I'm letting you all know.
Yeah, I
that
won't
right
be
now.
here that week either.
Okay.
So we have at least 3 not here that week
All right, so.
on the 8th.
Are we gonna? Is it necessary to have a quorum that day? Do we need to vote on things?
No, because it's a work session,
Yeah, so-
this
Should be
is,
okay.
I think we'd be fine.
Yeah.
so who's not gonna be available so I can,
Ms. Robinson,
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Boucher, and Ms. Hastings.
okay. So I believe that Pam will be back that weekend, and so I'll reach out to her so she knows. I think
Thank
you can
you.
have the discussion.
The
and-
15th is the important one, right?
Right.
I'll be there for
Who's
that.
not, is there anyone not available on the 15th? Looks like we're all back for the 15th.
Right,
Good deal.
right. The architects continue to do their work and to, put together as much as they can around the design. And we continue to meet with city officials and talk about various infrastructure that is necessary. Matt and Jack and I and Terry joins us so that she has good information. Terry and Matt and I and Jack worked on a release of fact information to post, answers to questions that people had. So we'd like to get something out probably next week.
Mr. Cotton?
Maybe I've been missing it, but one of the things that I haven't seen yet, and again, maybe I missed it, was some of the cost comparisons, especially around the heating systems and the useful life and possible credits, et cetera, that you can get for, ground systems versus other things. There's some, those kind of questions that are out there, and we're coming up to the 15th really quick.
Right, so we'll have the architects and engineers available on the 8th, so that we can revisit those numbers around life cycle and the comparative cost between, say, the geothermal and versus the hybrid, whatever, so you'll have that. All right, we'll review that. Did I miss anything on that, Jack?
Well, it was part of the conversation today.
Yeah,
So-
so we know those last numbers are important, because obviously, the HVAC systems are your biggest costs, right?
Yeah.
That's where a lot of money is, so you wanna know, it's a tough decision to make.
But they can be our biggest cost savers in the future.
Exactly,
That's the
because we
long run.
know we've been meeting with Unitil, Eversource, Matt, who?
Unitil.
Unitil,
Yeah.
and doing the incentives for putting in those, and what does that mean to the overall cost? And the committee got some of that information. I think you shared it at the building committee meeting. But, that's a lot of information, and people need time to process it all, so I'm glad you brought that up, Bob. That's a great point.
Ms. Robinson and I received a letter from a Mr. Varley, who's a constituent of ours, sharing some opinions and thoughts that he had about the planning. And then as a follow-up, he mentioned a petition that went around for a fence. And
Oh, yeah.
I don't recall seeing the petition, but I know, I'm confident that we, as a board, have added a fence, but nobody ever got back to them.
Okay, well, in your last rendition, the fence was in there.
Okay, great.
I don't remember the cost of it, to be
There's
honest.
a butters fence
Yeah.
for a little over
Right.
$100,000.
It was $100,000.
You also didn't vote on anything.
But
Yeah.
we haven't
Yeah.
added
So
anything
that,
yet.
is that why no one's gotten back
Right,
to
right.
anyone
I
yet?
think
So-
once you
Okay.
determine what you have and what you agree to, then we will reach out to anyone that had any questions like that
Okay.
and let them know that we appreciate them sharing their concerns. And, but it was in there.
It was.
Yeah.
I thought it
Yeah.
was. I just
For
wanted
your
to double check.
consideration, I
Yes,
should
thank
say.
you. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Cool.
I do. So we've heard from community that there are concerns that we're not in communications with the city, and you just said like we hadn't met, right? And we met
Yeah.
as a board as well. So we're just curious if you could repeat, who did you meet with recently, and who was at that meeting, just so folks know.
yeah,
We were
we just
talking
met, this week, was it Monday? We met, this week with, the Assistant City Manager, Matt Walsh.
Was that today, or was that last week?
Was that last week?
Thursday.
Last week. The days run in, I'm
It's
sorry.
all the same day.
It is, the
It's all
days
one long
run
day.
in for me. I apologize on that. Today is Monday. And Matt Walsh was there, traffic engine, woman in charge of the traffic, Ms. Hill, is that who it is, Matt?
Karen
Ms.
Hill.
Karen Hill. We had another engineer who works for the city there. Of course, Matt and Jack and I and Terry were there. And who else did I? HMF, right? Holly Miller was there, as well as. And she's a planner. She's in the planning committee. Yeah. Again, we have continued to periodically reach out and discuss city matters. I mean, even today, it was today that I had a meeting with the city, so I do apologize. But Ellen, Jack, and I met with the officials over at the Conf to talk about our electric buses and all the electric setups that we're going to need to do.
Right.
So
Right.
they are so. And by the way, I think Jack and Terry would agree, Matt would agree, they are so accommodating. I mean, they are open to conversations with us, and really bring a lot of good information to us and help us process. So We are meeting very regularly with the city officials and just kind of getting input from them, which is really important. And, you know, this project isn't just about schools. This project is about the city of Concord, right? So they need to be our partners. We, Jess, you brought up another great point. We're preparing to do a presentation to the city council. That came up in June when we met with the city council. And so it's been a busy June, and so we'll get ready to prepare. But we will be presenting our project to the city councils, and that'll be another good opportunity to get that information out. Jack and I have been invited back to the Chamber of Commerce meeting this year. They must have liked what we did last year, huh, Jack, if they asked us back. But really, we're going to present, initiatives, and the project, of course, will be part of our presentation. And we're doing that September 26th. So we'll make sure you all get invites. We'd love to have you join us that morning.
Thank you.
It's a great event.
All right, moving on to finance.
Yeah, I'm just looking, did I forget anything with middle school project? Larry, Matt, did I cover everything? Thank you, thank you.
We all set?
Yeah, I think we're moving on to finance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, report of the Finance Committee met on June 17th here in the boardroom. The members, we had an agenda that covered a discussion of the 300 series policies, which were presented to Finance and will ultimately end up with the Communication and Policy Committee as well. And then Mr. Dunn discussed where we finished up with our food service debt. This turned out to be $93,000 this year. This is, essentially this is food that was delivered to our students that we didn't get paid for, but we are still out collecting and still reminding parents. However, we do have to balance this as required by budget. So the motion was made and from the Finance Committee to this full board to recommend that the Board of Education appropriate $65,000 from the operating budget to cover the loss incurred at the Food Service Department. Mr. Dunn, will you explain the difference between the $93,000 and the $65,000?
So you already have in your budget, we'd expected 35,000, because that's what you've been running prior.
It's so much.
Yeah. 84,000 of it are those in a paid status. Those in free and reduced, 2,900. Those in free status, 4,600. For a total of $92,013.62. So you might be saying, how can they have a charge? They go up and get a milk. It's not free. It has to be a complete meal.
Gotcha.
So that's usually tough. They go up and get an apple. It's not a meal. So,
They have that fresh fruit program in the
Correct.
classrooms too, though.
Correct.
So hopefully that would curtail.
but that is
stuff.
only at the elementary level.
Yeah, of course.
So.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they did this year, Jack. They implemented the fruit program up at the high school as part of their MTS program. So we are doing that, and that's evolving across the district.
So just to clarify, Jack,
Yeah.
for the folks at home, we are experiencing a $93,000 deficit around feeding kids, primarily because parents who can afford to feed their children just did not follow up with their final tally on their lunch program, correct?
Those in a paid status.
Those in a paid status.
They
Okay.
did not qualify or did not fill out the paperwork for
Yeah,
a free or reduced status.
okay, thank you.
Doesn't mean they don't qualify.
Doesn't mean they don't
Correct.
qualify. A lot of folks don't apply,
Right.
even though they qualify. So
Yeah.
they should apply. I know the district does a lot to get folks to apply for free and reduced.
Yeah.
But yeah,
In the past, I understand that part of the problem on collecting at the end of the school year is that the accounts are wiped clean almost immediately.
No, they're not wiped till the last day, because there has to be 0 on the last day, but they were not wiped.
Before the last day, but
Correct.
on the last day of school, so parents didn't have any look-back time to say, let me finish cleaning up for the year. There's nothing we can do about that?
No, we looked at that. So now what we will do, we'll either have the general fund send home letters and try to collect it, or we will put it back on the account.
So even though the accounts may say 0, we still have information about what the amounts were and who?
Correct.
Okay, so we can
We
go back
can
now.
get all that
right.
data, yeah. We've asked to have it roll over and jump into a different account. They can't do that.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
As
it
long as
has-
we have a way.
And it has to be the last day of school, not the last day of the fiscal year, right?
Yeah, we wait as long as we can. We send out notifications. People get they get notifications when they're signed up through the app. They can drop off cashier, they can drop checks off. We do that throughout the year. It's not just at the end of the year.
And you can pay by credit card,
You can
correct?
pay by credit card. Yes, there is a fee, but if they pay cash or check here, there's no fee. They can mail it in. They can drop it off at the school. So, a number of options
What happens
available.
if someone's not enrolled on the online app? Right, I'm assuming
Yeah,
that
they can come
don't-
here, or they
They
can
don't
mail a
have
check
to,
or send
but then
money.
how do they get notification? Will they still get an email sent? Like where is
We
the
also send notices home.
Paper,
Right?
okay.
Yeah, we also send it to the school and have them put it in the
Okay,
backpacks.
okay.
That's not as frequent as the notification. And our person also does call,
Okay.
so.
So,
We're not alone in this, by the way,
Yeah,
from
of
an
course.
amount
Of
standpoint.
course.
Oh, yeah.
It has ballooned since
Of course.
the free meals from ESSER and the pandemic. It's ballooned.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
so, with that, does anybody have any other questions? With that, then, I would make a motion that we appropriate $65,000 from the operating budget to cover the loss incurred in the food service department.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Were there anything else?
Just we reviewed the potential year-end balance, and we reviewed the bonds for our HVAC system and buses that had previously been approved. With that, I will pass it on to Mr. Dunn to talk about the financial board report.
And before I get to that, if I could talk about the bond, so on page 37 of your board packet, as you know, you've appropriated, and I told you your budget process is different than your bond process. So in your budget, you appropriated the money for bonds, anticipated bonds, for the HVAC system at Beaver Meadow and at Concord High School, and also for buses. So in your packet on page 37 is the loan resolution. So we are posting that publicly tonight because that is the motion that will go, we need to set a date tonight, so when you get to your calendar, to have a public hearing on that loan resolution, okay? So we're beginning the bond process. It is a lengthy process to take up to 60 days to do. It's not something that we do often. The last time we did this was 2019. So going through this every time, I consult with bond counsel and our financial people, and we go through that. But this is a bit appropriated for the payments for this, and this has been part of your plan for the last year to get all the HVAC systems upgraded at the remaining schools. So all the schools after this is done, besides the new middle school, will be dehumidified air for summer use and upgraded heating plant as well. Okay. So that's what that is, and we can discuss that. That's just publicly posted out there. You don't need to read anything. This is what we need to set a date
To vote.
to vote on that,
Okay.
on this, okay? And then if I go back to, let me see if they have, let me see which one she put in here. On the financial report, let me just make sure what day. This was done at 6:25 at 8:39. So we processed one more payroll. That was about $6 million. We will now spend the next 2 months finalizing, paying last bills, The auditors will come in, we'll give them a trial balance, they'll go through, audit everything, and then once we get the blessing that, yep, their numbers are both tied to us, we will close out the fiscal year and finalize what that number will be. So this is a snapshot right before we ran the last payroll for the year, which is getting ran this week, because everything's 2 weeks in arrears. And, I highlight again, and we've started discussing those solutions, 1.2 million over budget for that student transportation piece. That's on page 31. That's big. And we did talk a little bit about the rental piece. We did not get the candidates coming to our schools this year for the presidential election, which usually adds a good $7,500,000 in rental income. That did not happen. But other than that, I anticipate we will hit the 2.8 million required to carry over to fund the 25 balance, our unassigned fund balance. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. And that concludes the finance
Okay,
committee portion.
thank you. We'll move on to instructional.
Hey.
Okay. The instructional committee met on the 26th of June and had a chance to meet with Assistant Principal Shalakis and Principal Herbert from the high school to talk about the SAT scores from the high school. Students did, as they did in the elementary and middle schools, did better in reading than they did in math. And we're really hopeful that that will continue to grow for all. And they are making some changes to the math programs. They're adjusting the pathway. Algebra 2, and geometry will see the biggest changes in order to cover more content. And this is, coming school year will be the first year that 9th and 10th graders will need 4 math credits instead of the 3. So that was a change that we made a year or so ago. The district fell average for the state. We were pretty close to the averages for the English and language arts. Math, we were a little bit below. We were at like 458, and the state average was 480. So we do have some work to do still in the math, and I feel confident, I think we all felt confident that the high school has got a good plan going forward to help that. And that looked positive, so we were very happy about that. We looked also at the SAS scores. Growth was seen in math and reading, and it was raw material. They haven't had a chance to really dig into that yet, but we'll be doing that over the summer, and will report back to us later on with more in-depth knowledge about the data and what it shows for our students in math and language arts. And finally, we had a presentation on the proposed portrait of a learner. You have that poster in front of you.
Behold.
This is a process that's been in development for over a year, and the goal is that these posters would be put throughout all of the schools if the school board votes to adopt this portrait of a learner. It is a required piece of the NHSAS accreditation process. The portrait of a learner also aligns closely with the Crimson Culture, which is the system that the high school uses and has been working very hard on developing, and will be rolling out in more detail next year to their students as well. So this would be a K to high school, K to 12 portrait of a learner for the school district. Some suggestions that were offered were when this is posted online, that we perhaps put some hyperlinks in there to show what some of the attributes look like, so that students and families will have a better idea of what does that mean. And especially around the examples of being creative and skillful. You know, those are kind of hard things to imagine at times what that looks like. So those hyperlinks would be able to solve that for people. So I'd like to make a motion that the board adopt the Concord School District Portrait of a Learner for the 24-25 school year. Can I get a second, and then we can have discussion?
I'll second it because I've already read it.
Thank you.
And yeah, feel free to ask questions, y'all.
Yes. Any questions? Any discussion about this?
Yeah, my question is, so Crimson Culture is separate? This is not
Yeah.
replacing Crimson Culture? Each school, even Runlet, all the elementary schools have their own?
Nope, this will be one. I'm gonna ask him to, you'll be able to explain it so much better than I can.
Yeah, so the Crimson Culture is something that the high school started a while ago, and we didn't want any Portrait of a Learner material to compete with what they had already started to build. And basically, what does it mean to be a competent learner? What kind of traits, personality traits and perseverance traits, what does it mean to be a 9 through 12 learner? And they actually got it to the point where there's a rubric and students and teachers sit down and talk about it. So how well did you do with perseverance? How well did you do with your kindness? How well did you do with et cetera, et cetera? So the subcommittee that came out of this work, that was year-long work with lots of different renditions, many, many renditions, and Mr. Cotton yourself was on the original committee. We wanted to make sure that no language conflicted, and even better, language was compatible to what they had already created for their Crimson Culture, the traits, basically the learning traits for students. So the final subcommittee was made up of Tim Herbert from the high school, Kylene, the assistant principal, Beth York, an English teacher there, and then members of the original committee. And so we could massage it so that it's not in conflict at all. They'll stand as two separate documents. And also, that's a really good question, because all of the schools have kind of their own vision statements, mission statements, kind of culture, whatever it may be. So this is meant to really stand as a district document that we all try to aspire to these different traits, to try to, some of them include some CASEL, some stuff from the SEL CASEL. They're aspirational, but they're not finite as much as some of the schools may have when they're looking at their own culture and what they want, how they want to be represented. We also talked about, well, this is a district, the nice green and blue district colors, that if a school wants to, without changing the content, but put a flavor of their own school on it, that's fine. So that we're allowing that autonomy for whatever school there is, for whatever school that might pertain to, but we're also saying, as a district, we're committed to these different traits and attributes. Make sense?
Yeah, this isn't so much an SEL thing as it is, I see a Portrait of a Learner as a reflection of what the community needs their educated kiddos to know and be able to do. Whereas
That's
like,
different than a Portrait of a Graduate.
the terms are interchangeable. Unfortunately, like, it depends on what community you're in, if you're having a Portrait of a Graduate or a Portrait of a Learner.
Portrait of a Graduate, interestingly enough, is very much the end product. By the time you're a senior, what kind of traits and skills might you want to have as a graduating graduate?
And this is
Portrait of a
the
Learner
whole.
is pre-K through 12. So as a preschool teacher, how I teach about creativity or collaboration or how to be self-directed. So you would make it applicable to your grade level, looking to foster those.
I was reading an article this morning about resilience and perseverance in our students, and it cautioned against us using those terms and felt that it would be more accurate or a better term to use something along the lines of cognitive flexibility. Because when we're talking about resilience and perseverance, we're talking about experiences and what students bring with them, and they might not have the ability to be resilient or persevere necessarily, depending on their personal experiences, but being cognitively flexible is something that we could go to. And I didn't know if you'd read that or have heard anything about that. It was brand new to me.
I have read that, and it's kind of a post-pandemic term where it's like, okay, we were resilient enough. Do we have to do anything?
Please stop being resilient.
So that's good. And it also has some heavy cultural
Yes.
cultural connotations to it. So you can see here that we have the word adaptable. Similar, right? Growth mindset. We do have the word resilient, but that's out of being self-directed.
We also use perseveres, but if I could just comment to that, I mean, one of the problems when you're trying to put something like this together, that you get so many of these
Jargon.
jargony buzzwords
Yeah.
and things, that, I mean, can you please explain to the normal citizen of Concord what a cognitive, whatever you said was?
Flexibility.
Well, I think it would mean that a student can look at a problem and be flexible in how they think about what tools are they going to use, what method are they going to use to solve that problem. And it might not be the same for each student, but they have the flexibility to be aware of several possible ways to solve a problem. And then they pick the one that works best for them.
One of the challenges when we were first starting to look at this over a year ago was trying to deal with all these words and
It's a
all these
problem.
concepts, and trying to pick things that would resonate with different communities, different people. And I don't know, personally, I don't have a problem with people who want to try to persevere, but
I don't have a problem, I'm not trying to say that I have a problem with it. I was just wanting to make sure that it was something we'd considered and that you were aware of it, and it sounds like you are.
May
Yes.
I add? So if you look in, so we simplified the top half. And then if you see the bottom half, to Mr. Cotton's point, totally, when you said cognitive flexibility, we heard what you guys have said in the past about saying it in plain language, that, you know, parents of all grade levels can understand. So the way I see this is the top is that more plain language, and the bottom does look like it was written by some more academic folks. And so it was that little bit of the balance of trying to reach both audiences and break down, you know, that this is demonstrating what that looks like. But here's that quick snapshot, because I don't know how many people are going to want to really dig down into every single bullet. You know, our regular parents who are, you know, just want to understand what we're teaching overall, or what our goal is at the end. So that was, we're trying to straddle that balance. And so what we see is, you'll see this upper piece maybe on the website, and then if you go down that next level, you'll see that supporting detail.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion, right?
We do have a motion and we have a second. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, motion passes.
I just want to say something about the SATs. That's
Yes.
okay. So one thing we did learn, which I was really proud of and grateful for our high school team, is that we did offer the PSAT to 100 10th grade students. And the goal is, and what we will do next year, is 100% of those students will be able to take the PSAT in grade 10. So we're really building towards culture where everyone gets comfortable with these test taking. We had the counselors on hand so we could help folks with their anxiety or test anxiety. So great job to the
And we
team
fed
on
them
all
very
this.
well.
Yes, everybody was well fed, but that was for the SAT. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yes.
thank you.
To follow up on SAT, for my own information, we offer the SAT, actually, we have every student take the SAT,
Yes.
grade?
Yes.
Is that the way, is that a,
The goal is to reach a 95% test-taking rate, and what were we at, 94%? So, and that sometimes involves knocking on people's doors, like literally,
Get them
it's a lot, and it also includes the adult learning center, anyone who receives a diploma,
okay.
Second start.
And
second start.
is the state the same way, or does the state, do other schools require everybody to take that test
They
it's
want
comparable?
it to be a 95% rate
across the state?
across the state.
Good, thank you.
This was initially done to replace taking the NEASC, like when I was teaching at the high school, it was juniors still took those state standardized tests, and it was like, why are we doing this and the SAT, let's
Right.
just use one. So what the big push now is to make PSAT accessible and free for all students as well. You don't have to take it, so not everyone signs up. Your standard level of student signs up, the ones that would anyway.
Yeah.
So this way, everyone can take it, and then it can be utilized more as a learning tool and that sort of thing. So it's great that our Our district's doing that.
And our district is unique in that not every single district offers this test for free.
No.
It's a hit that we take for equity, which I think is great, but it's not available to every single community in that way.
It makes a difference for when the kids step up to take the SATs and for the
All of it.
tests. Makes
All
a
of
big
it.
difference. Thank you.
Could I make a
Yes,
comment? Just
absolutely.
please note the test scores that you see in the book for our K-8 kids too. I'm really happy. They did make progress. You know, we came off of the pandemic, we made some changes, we really intensified the support for students, but you'll see that both in language arts and in math, we saw a 5% gain. Now, my goals were a little higher than that, but I always set the bar high and hoping to achieve that. But, you know, we did show progress. We did identify a couple of areas that we need to look at, but if you look at the individual growth from one group to another, you'll see that for the most part, we saw some significant gains. Our fifth grade challenged us a little bit, and so we're all digging in. When Brenda talked about it earlier, we're digging into that. What happened? Was there some skills that they missed? Were they, but for many of those fourth and fifth graders, remember, they were in kindergarten when the pandemic started, and they were all remote, right? And on, kindergarten is all day on a computer. Didn't work for a lot of them. So they're always playing catch up. And that's what we're seeing. But we still are pretty confident that we can continue to make up ground. It isn't going to happen overnight, but teachers worked very hard, and particularly our kids who really took it seriously.
Okay, we now have 30 minutes allotted for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment? If you just sign in when you come on up, that'd be great. And be sure to speak into the microphone, please.
There it is.
Good evening, Steve Michaelovitz, Ward 10. I have one brief comment and one question. It was noticed on Concord Patch the other evening that Ms. Boucher was soliciting opinions from her constituents via a survey regarding certain features of the proposed new middle school. That effort should be applauded. I would point out that just such an effort could have been made by the entire school board through each individual board member back when the middle school siting decision was under discussion prior to the vote on 6 December 2023. The results of such surveys might have guided the board to a more informed decision, perhaps avoiding the present level of mistrust and alienation felt by a significant portion of Concord residents. If that had occurred, the will of your constituents would have been revealed to all and hopefully served by you. It is not too late to have that happen. My question is this: when will we be getting the big picture regarding the cost of the new middle school for Concord taxpayers? At present, we have no clue as to costs for infrastructure, safety and traffic improvements, potential state grants, and the cost of environmental impacts, among other considerations. I don't anticipate an answer, but that is the question.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I just want to let you know that I started this cool blog, my own initiative, where I'm going to go check out all the sidewalks in Concord, because I think it's really important to see who they connect, what they connect to. We're in an age where people are feeling isolated and lonely, and I feel like sidewalks are that social infrastructure where we can connect with people, where the only thing we have in common is that we're passing each other on the sidewalk. So that's something that's really important to me. My blog, I'm going to do it weekly, is Stacey, STACEY, the number 4 Concord. And I've done a few. I went over to the east side. I went around Runlet. I went in this area, and I tell you, I think we did things better 100 years ago. The city is going to be moving a bus stop, whereas 100 years ago, we have this amazing trolley stop in stone, covered, right by a park, really accessible. I think those are the things we need to strive for. I want to touch on a June 18th reply to questions that was sent out and is currently on the website. I was just hoping for some updates on the site cost comparison. The site cost comparison in November 27th Working Group 2023 talked about pavement cost as being $65,000 difference. When we look at the current site, it looks like there's significantly more asphalt because you're going in a quarter mile for the parent bus drop-off, you're going in like a quarter mile for the bus drop-off, then there's a spiral around to a pavement parking lot. And also, the recreation was listed as Terrell Park would cost $500,000. I did a 1 mile radius look at what is accessible to Runlet, because it takes a village to raise a child. That's an African proverb. And it's not just what happens within the school, on school property. It's beyond that border. So I wanted to see 1 mile is not unreasonable for kids to walk. Where are the sidewalks? What do they connect to? There are 84 acres within 1 mile of Runlet via sidewalks and crosswalks of athletic and sports offerings. It is just incredible what the kids have at Runlet. And I think this is from decades, centuries in the process. I mean, the rail yards are really the reason why the South End was developed. But there's housing, there's green space, there's parks, play lots that are free and accessible to kids so that after school they can connect with each other, and community members. And I think that's a really important piece. So I would like, Jack, I would love you to connect with David Gill and give him that matrix of the recreation needs, because I know you're looking at what is the cap and, will this project go forward or not. So I would really like to make sure that our students have access to all the recreational offerings. I mean, within a mile of Runlet, there is track, basketball, softball, cross-country skiing. There is going to be a pump station. It's a mountain biking track that the city is looking at putting in at Russell Martin Park, which kids can access down Norwich Street to a trail. I don't know if anyone knew that. I'd never been on it until I started doing my own exploration. But it's a much safer way for Runlet kids to access Russell Martin Park, because Norwich Street has a sidewalk. South Street has a sidewalk too, but there is no sidewalk on Ironworks Road. Kids can take that trail down. It's off of Rolinda Ave, and it's marked for kids. And I know there is the grant from Outride for Riding for Focus. So kids are mountain biking. So this is a safe way for kids to experience mountain biking, and it's less than a mile trail, pops them out into a safe park. So that's something that I'd like to really make sure kids still have that accessibility. The timeline on that site comparison listed Broken Ground as happening in 30 months and Runlet is 48. But during the last Q&A, Broken Ground is actually 48 months. When you look at the schematic design, 6 months, design development, 6 months, construction documents, 10 months, bidding negotiation, 2 months, and then contract administration, 24 months. That's 48 months. So there really is no difference there between the two. And the pump station, that was actually in the city's CIP budget. In 2013, the city manager said it was probably in there even earlier, and it references a water sewer study saying it was part of the phase 3. Phase 3 doesn't exist. So if you look at the water sewer master plan, phase 3 doesn't exist, and that's what it's based on. So it's kind of been something sitting in the CIP budget for a long time, not necessary. The traffic study that was addressed that same night, when I went out and walked East Side, I walked it from the area where Royal Gardens and Regency are on East Side Drive. Typically, it's about 1.5 miles. You don't know exactly. It's 1.6 or 1.5 because can't really tell exactly where the entrance to the school was. They talked about student drop-off, parent drop-off. They talked about bus drop-off, but there was no real discussion about walkers. Are they going to, and bikers? What entrance access are they going to have? So I guesstimated based on maps, but there is no sidewalk on Broken Ground Drive on either side, and the traffic study recommends a crosswalk to that location and from that location, but there's no sidewalk there. So that's one of the things that I noticed walking on East Side Drive. There are crosswalks to nowhere. They connect from one road that's a two-way street to another two-way street road, but not to a sidewalk that's safe. So that's something that I hope is updated. And I know that Holly Miller that same night had said that they were exceeding the school building aid cap. And I looked it up, and it's $244 per square foot. And in the other last night, or the June 11th presentation said the estimate is $495 to $625 per square foot. So that is significantly more than the cap. So when you're looking at reducing costs, I hope you bring it back down to that $244 square foot number so that we get the full building aid. So those are the things that I just want to share with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Seeing no one, we'll close the public comment for the meeting and move on to communication and policy.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Madam President, we need to accept the minutes from the Finance Committee. We
Oh.
didn't do that, as well as the Instructional Committee.
Okay, my bad, sorry.
Thank you. No?
So could I have a motion to accept the minutes from the Finance Committee?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstaining? And I'll move to accept the minutes from the Instructional Committee.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, anyone
Thank you.
abstaining? We're all
Thank you.
set. Now we're
Yeah,
back to
we're good.
legal. Thank
Very
you.
good.
And
Thank you.
communication and policy.
So I think I'm gonna present for communication and policy since
Thank
Kara's
you.
not here. We had a meeting on June 12th. At that meeting, we talked about one item and one item alone, which was policy 741, the facility use fees. That, thank you to Matt Cashman, who was there to answer questions and to describe how the whole rental process works. We looked at adding a definitions section, providing clarity on who and who is not eligible for a nonprofit discount or fee rental waiver, providing clarity on how many staff are needed on hand to supervise and offer crowd control, updating language to prohibit any individual from bringing weapons onto school property, and various technical editorial updates to language to eliminate redundancies or shorten language. So that's what, if you haven't had a moment to take a look at that policy, it is a very lengthy policy. And does anyone have any questions on that? Anyone?
Is
Anything
this-
do you want to add, Jim, to that?
No, I think it was, I mean, we spent a lot of time on that one. I think we reviewed it thoroughly.
You'll probably see that one in your August
the
board
August one,
for the
actually.
first read.
Yeah,
We
so that
made
will
some,
come
you
in.
made some corrections, and so we made those corrections and are preparing that document for August.
Great. On to policy 430, we're bringing this to the board for a second read, the restraint and seclusion policy. Majority of the changes that were made from the last, from the first read were just words and formatting. So it was mostly formatting. We changed things like, one said shall not include, and we just made it so it was consistent throughout. Does not include instead of shall not include, things like that. But it was all formatting otherwise. The biggest change that we needed to make was, if you see under the changes in the first A1, the second age that's listed there was changed from 17 years to 18 years. And that was due to a RSA change on May 31st of this year and goes into effect July 30th. So we needed to make that change.
Okay. Are we moving to accept this policy today?
It's
It's second reading?
second reading, so yeah.
I move to pass policy 430, document with amendments on second reading.
Second. We spent a lot of time on this.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion passes.
I'd just like to say good work to the committee.
Yeah.
That's a tough
That is
policy.
It's awful.
And I honestly expect that we'll see changes again. It
Every
comes up
session.
every session, but I think we have a good foundation in this policy. We do need to accept the minutes of the policy
Yes, we will
committee.
do that as well, yes.
Thank you.
Motion to accept the minutes of the policy committee.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Campbell and Mr. Cotton, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion passes.
Awesome, thank you.
Did we get this out to the staff of schools? Because this is pretty big changes on stuff that they do daily.
Right, we'll be meeting with first we'll start obviously with our administrative team and our principals and work with them, but we've already presented this to them, so they have a good idea. They've already reviewed it, they made suggestions to us, especially early on. Some of the language was very confusing, and the adjustments have been made. That will then go to the staff. And as you know, our staff is trained every year.
Some staff are.
Uh-huh.
Some staff.
Yeah, especially the staff that are dealing with youngsters that this may affect. We also, I will bring to you in August, I have gathered the number of restraints and seclusions that we've had this year. You asked for that I just finished the last safety survey from one of the buildings, so once I have all that data, I will share that to let you know how many restraints and seclusion. And, you have to remember, we do have programs in the district for students that have some emotional issues, and so you might see a little bit higher number. We also know that there is one school in particular that is surrounded by major thoroughfares, and so you have to be very careful, because you do get once in a while, you get these little guys and they want to run, right? And so, you have to restrain them because you don't want them out on the main street. And and I'll explain all that to you, but our numbers are very, very reasonable. So I feel good about this.
Mr. Richards.
Yes, just a quick question. We just passed, pardon me, we just passed this policy, and there'll be very many parents, I think, who are very interested in it. How long will it be until it's posted onto our website so people can read it? I know we can read it in our board book here, and the public can as well, but
Right, we'll get it up on the site tomorrow. Bridget loads everything up on the policy site. We'll also have this policy in their handbooks, which you will get in August. We'll post that in your folders to review school handbooks, parent-student handbooks, so it'll be posted in there too, so parents will have a chance to see it.
thank you.
I actually had a parent visit me last week come in and talk to me about this policy, which was great, and we had a great discussion around how it's used and some of the language and interpretation of it. So I expect we'll see a little bit more of that too.
Thank you very much.
Great. Any other questions? Not seeing any, we will move on to the New Hampshire School Board Association resolutions. Who's going to be?
Looking at me. Why are you looking at me?
Aren't you the person that goes
You're attending.
representing us?
I am the delegate,
Yeah.
but I don't know why you're looking at me.
What I did was, what I did was in your book, starting on page 82, is you asked me to put in last year's resolutions and all that. So that's in there. That was just for you to see what kinds of resolutions were proposed, right? And so if you continue through that, you'll see right up through until we get to,
Page 97.
right, and we have two that came forward. One was around, Sarah, I think you proposed this.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to it if you want
Would
me
you?
to. Yeah, we've got an environment in our state where kiddos who are non-binary or identify as trans are going through a real hard time. And we have some potential legislation hitting the governor's office. So this proposed resolution was already passed in the Dresden School District, and they'll be submitting it to the School Boards Association. I thought it's always useful if more than one district gets behind some language at once, just to show that we're universally committed to some shared values. So the resolution says, whereas all children deserve to be safe in New Hampshire schools, and whereas public education strives to encourage tolerance, acceptance, inquiry, and curiosity, and whereas all children deserve the opportunity to participate in school-based extracurricular activities, including sports teams, and whereas several school districts in New Hampshire have already adopted inclusive transgender student policies, and whereas the state of New Hampshire has previously enacted anti-discrimination laws in 2018 protecting transgender people from discrimination in housing, employment, public accommodations, and schools, therefore be it resolved that the NHSBA supports and advocates for statewide legislation and local school board policy that affirms the rights of all students to participate in education, including school-sponsored curricular and co-curricular activities, free from discrimination on the basis of gender identity. It's pretty straightforward, easy language, just establishing we support all kiddos no matter how they show up in our district, and that we will continue to do so.
Just
Happy to answer any questions.
I am a very proud parent of a non-binary kiddo, and I thank you, and I'm very supportive. So thank you so much for doing
You are
this.
so welcome.
is the Dresden school district isn't just New Hampshire though, right? Isn't it?
Correct. They
It's
do
Vermont?
share a district with Vermont, but this was primarily the Hanover folks that were, it was a Hanover school board member that created the language and submitted it for review. So it started in New Hampshire and was voted on in New Hampshire. Vermont doesn't have quite the same issues we do.
And as I'm reviewing the previous list of resolutions, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see one that is similar to this.
Nope. It has not been a real issue in our state until our legislature decided that they needed to legislate people's bodies. So I think it's an appropriate stand for a district to take. I'm not sure how we decide as a board to put these in. Do we have to vote on them?
Are we voting on one?
Right.
I think we can only submit one.
You know, by consensus vote on any of these proposed, because you need to bring that, I need to take care of that, and then send it to the New Hampshire School Board Association so that it can be put on the agenda for their annual meeting
their
held in
vote.
October. I believe the deadline that he said to me was these have to be in August, so.
So may I propose, because Liz, I am assuming that the gun-free school zones came from you, is that correct?
That's for me.
Yeah,
yes.
so I would, because I don't see that anywhere else as well, I would gladly take the one proposed for me out, but if we could provide language to the SBA acknowledging the Dresden district's resolution, and that we as a board fully support that resolution and have submitted our own for consideration. Is that possible?
I think so, but I think that will be the task you have in front of you at the meeting, because
Happy to do it.
if your board agrees to that, then you would get up at the meeting and support that in representing Concord.
All right, so is that what we need to vote
I
on?
looked at the submission form online, and it's very like one-lined. You can't add a lot of detail.
Yeah, it's fair, yeah, that's fine.
So it-
I would really just say the Concord School Board fully agrees with the language previously provided by the Dresden School District.
What is that language?
It's right here on page 97.
Oh, what you just read.
Yep, what I
thought
just
that
read.
was yours.
Yep.
So I'm gonna be hated here, but one of my biggest issues around blanketed trans inclusion is that sometimes including a group of people excludes directly and painfully and harmfully another group of people.
Can I push back on that, though?
I'm not done talking, but thank you. Let
Okay.
me finish.
All right.
So my example is with Title IX and sex-based differences versus gender identity-based differences. The people who are born in female bodies have directly suffered from a lot of trans-inclusive policies. An example in New Hampshire is both indoor state high jump champions are penis-bodied individuals, the boys' state champion and the girls' state champion. Both were born in male bodies. So that's wonderful for the trans student who gets to win a state title, but it took away a state title from a female-bodied person. And there is not any consistent and equal success on the other side. There were 326 high school girls nationwide this spring who lost titles and state meet qualifying spots and podium spots to trans athletes. Not one trans boy, as in a vagina-bodied boy, took a state title or a podium spot from a girl because the bodies are so different. So I don't want anyone to feel unwelcome. I don't want anyone banned or excluded. But if including somebody excludes somebody else, then we're not doing right by anybody. And the anger and the resentment will continue. Because now you have 3 middle school girls in Virginia who didn't feel good about a track person winning the shot put by 2 feet, and they silently protested, and they were banned from track for the rest of the year, and their parents had to sue the district for free speech. That was not fair treatment for those girls. They were trying very much to exercise their discomfort at a situation. Did that help that trans girl? No, it made her the enemy. So I'm not going to support this, and it's not because I don't want our trans kids to be safe and included. It's because blanket language like this, we aren't there yet, and it hurts the girls. And that's what I see with my own eyes at meets that I officiate and events that I go to. It's difficult and tricky, and female-bodied people have suffered in a way that male-bodied people have not. They lose out in women's athletics by losing to male-bodied athletes, and then trans girls that identify as male can't even make a varsity team in their female bodies. They will never, so they lose out both ways. Like it just doesn't, I just think we have more learning to do. So that's just how I feel. I'm just speaking for the girls right now. I'm speaking for the girls that don't dare say anything because they get yelled at for that.
That's completely fair. And I appreciate you voicing your opinion about this issue. Always welcome to the table. I am going to need to correct a little bit of misinformation if you're open to it, that there are only 5 girls in the entire state that the anti-trans sports bill would apply to in our state.
I understand.
So it's a very small demographic of people, and I did some research around who exactly is taking titles away based on performance of male body, female body stuff. I couldn't find credible sources. So if you have credible sources, please show them to me. I would like to see them, so because I'm trying to bring forward a conversation that has receipts attached to it. And I really do not, in the work that I've been doing in advocacy around LGBTQ plus issues for my work, is that a lot of this fear and resentment that's happening is based on not real things.
Okay, the state champion in the 400 in Washington is real. The state champion in the 200 in Oregon is real.
I would love for you
These
to
are
show me the results.
The Liberty
And I'm
University
open to seeing them.
NCAA Division II national champion is real. These, I'm not making stuff up.
I'm not saying that you're not making stuff up. I'm just curious where what the source
Pierce Park
is,
Regional
and
High
I'm
School
open
is
to seeing the
where
sources.
the trans girl went that won the high jump, right here in Concord, in New Hampshire. The state meet was at UNH. So these things happen, that's all.
Okay.
I'm not looking at some weird, I'm going by results that are, in the newspaper and on the news. And
Okay, I had a hard time finding them, so if you could provide them to me, I would be very grateful.
me like
Truly.
12 seconds.
All right.
Yeah.
Send me all the stuff you've got.
Ms. Campbell?
And Barb and anybody else watching, please always say something, speak up. And I love that you did, and thank you so, so much. Always share. And again, anybody listening, this is a very tough conversation, and a lot of emotions involved, and everybody's hearts are in the right place, no matter where you come from. So please feel free to talk to us and share your thoughts. So thank you, Barb, for opening up that conversation.
Thank you.
Ms. Boucher?
My question, and I don't know if anyone has an answer for this, but with all of these previous resolutions, I'm assuming they're going to gain, I've never been part of this process, they're going to look at all the new proposals and then whittle down, or? So they-
Everybody votes on them.
So they'll, of a whole new slate, as in some of these of the previous year, it starts a new slate.
There's so in this document, you'll see that Kathleen provided. These
Right.
are ongoing resolutions, all agreed upon at delegate meetings that people voted on. And they remain until, this is all recommendations to the state legislature. Those resolutions remain until the legislature absolves them.
Okay.
So you'll see,
Which
we've
is
had some
not-
established in 2011, 2014, 2000, 1997. They stay there because as a representative body, the state board, the School Boards Association does lobbying and talks to legislators. This is what our demographic believes is the best step forward, and here's proof we've all voted on this kind of thing. So because these resolutions presented in the notes for you to review have not been included, they will be included in this larger list of things until the issue is resolved, so to speak.
Okay. So they will, from the previous one, we will only add to it. We're not going to take away.
Right.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, there's not a certain number.
Okay.
But
There are
the
lots-
other thing that will happen too is that we'll get a list of all the proposed resolutions, and you will vote on them before the October meeting as a board. So when Sarah goes, who's going with you?
I don't know, anybody's welcome to come
Yeah,
along.
we usually
I'm
have a
lot of
second,
fun.
but anyway, we'll look at those, because Sarah is gonna vote based on your vote. In other words, let's say, for instance, the one that Sarah just proposed, and you all say, yes, we're gonna support that, then she knows that and she's going to vote in favor of that. Let's say there's another piece of legislation that you all didn't support, she's not gonna support it. She's representing you.
Yeah.
She's not going there with her own mind, it has to be
Voted
the
upon.
position of this board. Now, you've got two more, you've got food, which was last year, and it was voted down by the School Board Association
It was.
General Assembly,
weird
I'll call them.
conversation.
And it was regarding universal free lunch. Obviously, you heard from Jack tonight, and that is an issue. And the legislature came within one vote of doing something around lunches for kids, and it was kind of too bad. But, so it's going to come up again. I put that in there because you asked me to put in anything from last year. This didn't come from anyone, because you can see that Jonathan and Bob did this last year. And so I didn't know if you wanted to bring it back, so that's in there.
I just want to say I appreciate the conversation. As someone who's trying to learn about these topics, they're emotionally charged oftentimes, and I really appreciate being part of a group of people who can have respectful conversations that are different. On this case, I find myself agreeing with Ms. Higgins. While I want all of our students to feel safe and welcome and included, I feel that there's just not enough history, information at this point to be able to support a broad blanket statement like this at this point in time.
So my question is then, do we, and I'm so sorry if this was already explained, so at this point, are we just deciding what we want to give to you to vote for us? Or just
So
go
these
through
are
it?
just to clarify, this big book of resolutions that's already been voted on, we're not gonna be
Okay,
voting on these
so we're
again.
good. Okay.
It's just the established, they give it to folks so that we're not remaking the wheel, you know
Okay.
what I mean? So there will be other resolutions that they're going to publish for all of us to see and be able
Okay.
to make a decision on, and so I'll mark down yes for this, no for this, and just stand up and represent the
that's
district there.
I'll probably bring that to you in September, because
Yeah.
he'll have them.
It's
I
not
have to
until
have these in
October.
by August 1st, I believe.
Yeah.
And then he'll put them all, the executive director will put them all together. I'll bring them to you to vote on in
Yep.
September, and then Sarah will know what to do when she goes to the meeting to represent you.
So this conversation right now is which of these three are we submitting? So there's the inclusive policy or the inclusive resolution I read. There's the universal free lunch that Jonathan wrote and presented last year. It was a very surreal conversation that folks had, but really had to come down to budgeting. Honestly, that was the rationale. And then we've got gun-free school zones. Could you speak to that, Liz? I'd love to have you sort of sum up or just read the
Well,
whole
this
thing.
came about from a rental that we had at the high school where someone, an adult, was carrying a firearm outside of school hours in the school. And so this is just a national issue, and I put together a resolution regarding that in the hopes that the, supporting New Hampshire state legislation will enforce the federal Gun-Free School Zone Act.
You did support this resolution early on. Liz, you brought it to the board. So this is just a resolution that you would bring to the next level, being the School Board Association.
Ask a question. So you said we are looking at which of these three. Can we only bring one?
I believe that's the case, is you
Okay.
bring one and you're.
Just wanted to be
No,
clear.
you can't just bring
You can
one?
bring
Bring more than one.
Oh, but
Oh,
the submission-
shoot.
But the submission process is very clear, it's just one. How
I think
looked at
it's
that online
each
submission.
school board member can,
No.
am I getting that wrong?
I don't know, but I've had experiences where school boards had multiple resolutions to bring.
But do they submit them all, or do they come with them in hand?
Well, they submit them all, and then they're voted on by the
By the
You can
assembly.
make multiple submissions.
So I guess we're just voting on each of these then,
To bring all of
to
them.
bring, each one
I think we ought to vote on each one of them and
Yes.
try to
individually.
submit them if they pass.
So do we make a motion for that? Do we have to like motion, sorry, I'm just like trying to follow Robert's rules. Do we do a motion and a second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we confirm this is due August 1st?
Yeah, I will.
So the first one would be a motion to bring, what are we calling this one? Yours, Sarah?
Yeah, I would say the motion language could be that we approve submitting a transgender inclusive resolution as written and presented by the Dresden School Board, supported by the Concord School Board.
Did you get all that, Ms. Murphy?
No.
I can repeat it.
Would you
you.
do that for me?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Yep.
That the Concord School Board would submit the trans inclusive policy written and submitted by the Dresden School Board, but supported by the Concord School Board. And if anybody wants to second that, feel free.
I need a second to that.
I will second. Oh, sorry. I was just reading.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay,
Yeah, you're
okay.
good.
Did I
Sarah,
hear a
who
second?
was that?
Miss Campbell.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor, is this a roll call?
Discussion.
Well, I
Oh,
think you have
discussion. I feel like we've already had that.
Yeah,
Okay,
we've
any
kinda
more
talked
discussion?
about it.
This isn't directly related to this, so should I hold? It was about the deadline.
Oh, sure, tell us.
Yeah.
The motion can hang out.
The proposals are due at 4 PM Friday, August 2nd, and each NHSBA member school board is allowed to submit one or more proposed resolutions.
There we go. Perfect. Okay.
Okay, so is this a roll call or is this a,
Well,
just a call?
Yeah, just regular vote.
Okay.
regular
All
vote.
right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Aye. Just
Nay.
aye, sorry, and 3, okay. Anyone abstaining?
Me.
So we have a 3, 3, and 1 abstain.
Doesn't pass.
Yeah, it doesn't pass.
Doesn't pass.
Cool.
This also does say proposals may be a new resolution or may seek to amend any current resolution. So I think if one resolution's already passed, there's a potential it would still pass if it was amended slightly to contain language.
Yeah, well, I think this one's dead for now,
Well-
unfortunately.
This one, I'm not
was
saying
gonna
this
say-
one, I'm talking about just in the future.
Yeah.
For clarification, this vote was to join Dresden in proposing this resolution. However, we will come up, if Dresden does propose this will come up to us again to vote as to whether or not we will instruct Ms. Robinson
To vote
and
on it.
whoever the alternate person is to vote for it. So
Okay.
there will be an opportunity to discuss this again.
Good.
And I will add that language such as, so long as inclusion does not directly interfere with or hurt other existing populations, if that were in there, I'd be much better with it, because it creates conversation around issues as they come up, rather than too bad, so sad for the person that's getting hurt on either side.
No, that's good.
Does
That's
that
good
make
language.
sense?
Does.
I'm not trying to.
Oh, I dig it. No worries. I get where you're
Taking
coming
a lot
from.
of nasty heat for
I bet.
standing up for little girls, and that's hard on me sometimes.
I bet. That makes sense.
Send them my way. I got you.
Okay, now we look at the gun-free schools.
No, let's look at the second.
Let's look at the second
Isn't
one.
that the second one?
No,
No.
the second one is the
Universal free lunch.
Free lunch, I'll make the
Oh, wait a
motion
minute.
once
Where is
again
Oh,
to
it's here.
do the free
Sorry,
lunch. It's
I
on
thought
page
that was-
98.
No, I thought that was the same one as.
Mr.
for
Cotton,
the
I'll
title.
second that.
Lunch Universal. Any discussion?
I supported this motion last year, and I'll support it again this year.
Same.
Absolutely.
This is great. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That one passes. Now we'll go to the gun-free school zones.
Do you want to make that motion, Liz, or?
I would like to make the motion to bring the Concord Board of Education resolution for gun-free school zones to the NHSBA meeting.
Perfect. Seconded.
All right, any further discussion? Sarah? Any
I
discussion?
seconded.
Thank you.
Not seeing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion passes 7-0.
So I will get these ready we'll get the two ready for
Yep.
submittal to the New Hampshire School Board Association.
Great, thank you.
All right, and we will move on to personnel.
So, I'm gonna do that tonight. Michelle is on vacation, so, first I would like, please to, present the name of Nancy Coffin, as the assistant principal at Broken Ground School. Nancy comes, to us with a lot of experience, in the area of special education. I think you can see that in the little resume that we put on this, so I'm asking, that you would, confirm her, election as assistant principal at Broken Ground.
Do we have to make a motion to vote these
I'll
folks
make a
in?
motion. I'll make a motion to approve the nomination of Nancy Coffin for the assistant principal position.
I will second that. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion passes 7-0.
Welcome, Nancy.
Yes, welcome.
So, yeah, they were all, she was in today, so I had a chance to see her. She had a great day, which is wonderful. I am pleased to ask for confirmation on 3 positions that have been working with us. Catherine Weeks is moving from Runlet Middle School counselor position to the high school. Devin Byers is a special ed teacher currently at Runlet, but is moving to the counselor position, obviously that Kate Weeks' job. And then I'm also placing the name of Jonathan Edwards as a math teacher at Runlet Middle School, asking for your vote of support for those 3 positions.
I move approval of those 3 positions.
And second?
Any discussion?
Second was Jess. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I'm trying to do notes too.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone
No,
abstaining?
I need
Okay. That motion passes 7.
7 zip, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. And I'd like to place the name of the following folks for a teacher for the 2004-2005 school year. Melissa Noyes will be a kindergarten teacher at Krista McAuliffe. Paul Cunningham, physical science teacher at the high school. Michael Leonard, life studies teacher at Concord High School. Kaylee Platt, grade 9 through 12 math teacher at the high school. Timothy Mendola, science teacher at Runlet Middle School. And Meredith Peters, a special education teacher at Runlet Middle School, asking for your confirmation for those folks.
I move the acceptance of all of those names as presented by the administration.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes.
All right.
Now we move on to other business.
No.
No?
One more.
Nope.
Oh, new teacher nomination?
Enrollment?
One right next to it.
Enrollment.
That was
We did that,
included.
we've already done that, yep. So we will move on to other business. Monthly enrollment.
Yeah, year enrollment, I mean, it's end of the year. I mean, obviously, we're starting to get new numbers. We have the number, Bridget and I looked at them today. We have people who have asked for special exceptions, you know, based on certain circumstances in their family, and where the youngsters will attend. We do look at the numbers, though, you know, I mean, we have to watch the numbers, and so that's important. If they're in a 5th grade and they want to stay another year, I don't ever want to move a 5th grader into a new school, right? So, you know, those we kind of keep. And then we're watching registrations. You know, I just want to put an idea in your head down the road, not tonight, but, you know, Chris Gallo brought it up to me this week, and then I saw a great article in the Manchester paper this week that Manchester just opened up a family center. They had a grant, so it was all funded by a grant, but it's a place where people can go with new registrations, and, you know, we have that issue, you know, all the, you know, filling out the forms, and it's all online, and what do I need for immunizations, and health records, and, maybe language barriers, and that would give us a chance to do our free and reduced lunch forms, and
Snap
Oh,
enrollment.
capture everybody at the door.
yeah, and bus issues where you might need to be, you know, might need transportation services. So we just kind of began to think about that a little bit today, something that I think the district, we've talked about it in the district, trying to make sure that all of our registrations are consistent. You know, once you don't have anything consistent, some person puts, well, the parent's name is Ms. MS, and somebody else is Mrs., and it does throw the systems off. So something down the road around registration that I'd like to think about. We'll do some work internally with the team, but I think it would be a wonderful way to support families new to the community, and registering their kids for school, so just a thought. Anyway, registration's pretty quiet right now, the month of July, but we'll see an uptick come. Numbers look pretty good, but we're watching them, pretty closely. As you can see, at Krista this year, look at what we had in kindergarten, we had 69, and I'm at 30. What happened? I can't figure it out, but we'll keep an eye on that. I'll have more good data for you come the August meeting. Right now, I haven't used any of my contingency to fund another position, so it's sitting there, which is good, just in case we have any surprises, which is why you have that money in your budget.
Man, we have 146 kids in preschool. That's the biggest class.
It's where we saw the biggest jump in enrollment. And so, you've heard from John, and John has always been concerned about that. We've added hours to that staff and contract hours to be able to support those youngsters and their families.
Are those youngsters still, are those all that were either found in Child Find or?
Yeah.
So they are all,
Child Find there, those youngsters were a very small number. I think, let's see, the number of community placements is 10. Those are typical. The rest of them are atypical kids.
wow.
So, it runs the course. They're not full-time. Sometimes it's just OT or PT. Sometimes they're just going in for that service. Sometimes it's just speech and language. Oftentimes you see a lot of that in the little ones, right? Still learning their sounds but yeah.
Do we do articulation at this point for the young
Probably a
students?
little bit too soon for that,
I was
but.
thinking, yeah. So when we're talking
yeah.
speech and language, it's
Right.
it's language development.
Right,
Okay.
right. So, but yeah, that has been our biggest issue.
A lot of kids.
It's a lot of kids.
Yeah. That's the COVID bump.
Yeah, some of it, Barb's right, some of this is a result of the COVID bump, and, we still are dealing with that. It'll be a generation before it goes away, so. But they're here, and we love them, and we have a program at Abbott Downing, we have a program at Beaver Meadow, and a program at Millbrook. So we have 3 programs, and I would love to add one to Krista McAuliffe. But right now, I don't have a classroom, so I couldn't do it. But John would really like to just spread, so each of the 4 schools all have a preschool program, which means that those youngsters who might be a Krista McAuliffe assigned youngster is out at Beaver Meadow. So that means
Yeah.
transportation
They
and all
used to be
that
at
going on.
Conant, and then when it switched and Abbott Down and didn't have it, it all
Right,
moved to Beaver Meadow.
right, and so that,
Because my kiddos went to Conant.
we would like to bring them back to their natural school.
Well, if Krista McAuliffe stays at 30, you might have that
I
classroom.
might have that classroom, so
Yeah.
I am watching that.
30 feels unrealistic.
It does.
There's
It
gonna
does.
be
It
more
does.
kids.
It-
Everybody's
that's why
just
I'm
waiting till the
afraid,
very last
we're-
minute.
Yeah, I will. Anyway, that's enrollment for right now.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Proposed calendars of meeting.
So I'll keep going, well, you've taken care of this week. Other than tonight's meeting, it's pretty quiet. We'll celebrate Independence Day on Thursday. Office will be closed. Friday, we'll have a skeleton crew in here. Lots of folks decided to take that long weekend the way the holiday fell, which is great. You have, I think we talked about your work session next Monday, and we also have a scheduled negotiations meeting, a committee, that will be a committee meeting. As you know, we have, how many groups in negotiating this year, Jack?
5.
5. We have 5 unions negotiating, so.
Just held that packet today.
Yeah, it's a lot, but.
Jack,
That's
you're going to have only 2 members potentially there for that meeting. Is that going to be okay?
Yeah, it's more, I don't need you to take a vote
Informational.
or anything. It's more information and us, having the discussion.
Sounds
We
good.
have some unaffiliated things to discuss too.
I can give you a call too that day,
Okay,
just so that I'm filled in.
sure.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. Thank you.
I will do the same.
Put
The
it in my
following
schedule
week
so I
is
don't
what we
forget.
scheduled, for your 2 meetings around the project and having a number, a cap on the costs of the project, with lots of discussion and opportunity for a public hearing before you make any final decisions. The following week is another special board meeting for the purpose of superintendent's evaluation. The President Walsh asked me to put on the 24th, just in case it takes a long time. I hope it's a short meeting. That's just a little sidelight. The 29th is your executive committee meeting, and then we'll have, the instructional committee will work with the policy committee, and we would like to present some information on class size. It was something that you had talked about during budget session, so we've gathered some data for you to consider around your class size policy, and whether it's something that you would continue to support or you want to make change.
Great.
I think that's a great night to do that. And I even hate to say this, but the month of August, you have a school board meeting the first Monday of the month. Our administrative retreat is, that will be the administrative council. It's about 30 people, assistant principals, directors. We come together, we talk about the strategic plan and goal setting for the next year. So we have 2 days of retreat. The following week, we'll have a policy committee. This one will be a joint meeting with finance so that we can discuss the 300 series, which is all those finance policies. Very, very, very dry. Oh, I didn't mean to
That was
say
the
that.
highlight of my weekend.
Did you read them over the
I
weekend?
did. I said detailed notes.
Oh, no, I can't wait.
What,
And
why are you
then,
grumbling over there? You're great notes. Bob Cotton said they were great.
and, sorry, you guys, but it is work you have to do. And then building committee on the 15th, which will resume that work. Executive committee, city community, we'll be getting back together on that, Sarah, and in anticipation for our September multicultural fair, which we always have a table at and all that, which is a great, great event.
That's so fun.
Yeah. Back to school night is at Keach Park. We have the 22nd. We need to do a rain date. And so we're thinking maybe 20 and 22. We're double checking with the folks over at Parks and Recreation, because we use Keach Park. Great event, fabulous event, all our families together, teachers doing lots of good things, getting the kids ready for school. We have a lot of our interpreters who come to help families with all the forms that they have to fill out, registrations, free and reduced, bus issues. The bus is there, kids get to go on the bus, experience that. It's a nice night. We also, that week of the 19th, will be, Kim will be bringing in all the new staff, so we'll be doing some new staff orientation on the 20th and 21st, I think. And then the following week, our teachers are back. Teacher workshops, first day of school is the 28th.
21st and 22nd.
Is it the 21st and 22nd? Okay. New teacher workshops.
I can't wait. Summer's over.
So I
Yeah.
hate to run through the summer. I know, this was hard.
Hush your
for me.
mouth.
Can I just-
It's not done yet, damn it.
Superintendent, can I just
I'm
ask a question?
sorry.
I need to set that
I'm
date.
sorry.
for my finance.
I just have a question. The new Blue Dukes night and the MBS meet and greet, can you just explain what those are? I'm sorry.
Looks like Mr. Rashad got on the calendar. He must have called Bridget and said, put me on.
I love him.
Yeah, he's great, huh?
Yeah, we don't have all of them yet, so that's like a night back, for families and kids, the 4 to 6.
For just sixth grade, any new student or
Yeah,
all
students
students?
at the middle school
Okay.
level. Mostly you see 6th grade, but. you
But
know,
not the
all
open
new
house.
students.
This is a
No,
pre-open
this is-
house.
Yeah, they have these before, and same with Millbrook, they have a meet and greet.
Okay.
It's a great way for, especially for kids moving into different, it's transitions, right? All part of that.
I love that.
Easy anxiety.
I'd love to be at that new Blue Dukes night, but we've
Yeah.
got an instructional committee
Well,
meeting.
Oh, Pshaw, go to New Blue Dude.
Mr. Rashad always talks
take
about
notes.
his Blue Dukes.
Oh, he loves them, man. I
Yeah,
love
he
it.
does.
Go ahead,
He
Jack.
does.
I need to go back to the July calendar. If you remember in finance, we need to set a date for you to vote on that loan resolution.
Oh,
So that has to be, at a minimum, it has to be posted for 7 days.
do you
So-
need a quorum or just finance?
No, I need the whole board.
Board.
Yep. So when I look at you have your 15th, your 17th, your 22nd, your 24th, that's kind of where I was
Oh, okay.
thinking, but
Yeah.
I also wanted to be cognizant of what you want to try, what
Needs to
night
be
you
a
would want.
Public meeting?
though.
Yeah, public hearing
So not
on the loan
22nd,
resolution, and then you will vote on that resolution to continue on. And then there'll be a final vote, and that has to be posted no less than 15 days, but no more than 60 days. But once you approve the loan resolution, then we got to go through our process.
Right. so-
Moody's, S&P,
I mean, you
documentation.
Or just vote on it
do
on
it
the
on the
15th. We're gonna be here
22nd.
anyway.
You
It's
can
public
do it on the
forum.
22nd,
If you're all going to be here, the
Before we
20,
go into non-public.
before you go into non-public.
yeah,
What date was that?
The 22nd?
22nd before we go
of
into
July, and then I will put it in
That
the
way
paper.
there you stay focused the week before on your
Yeah.
building project.
No, that sounds good.
Okay?
All right.
That's-
I'll add that in, Jack, on
Yep.
when we do
Okay.
this.
On. Schedule.
Oh, nice. Just put it in
Alright.
there. and Okay, no problem.
Thank you, Jack.
You got it, thank you.
Okay, and at this point, we have a second time for public comment, and since we didn't use all of our time the first time, is there anyone that would like to speak? Not seeing anyone, we'll close that. Do we have need for a non-public this evening?
No, we don't.
We do not. Nice.
Great.
So could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Second,
Liz?
Liz.
sorry, Liz, I didn't catch it. Okay.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The meeting is closed.
Hooray, good job, everybody.
Pretty opposed to